Do you know someone with a neurodegenerative disease? If you know someone with Alzheimer's, Parkinson, multiple sclerosis, ALS, then you would probably agree this is a very devastating disease, one that there's not many people that walk away alive from, but there's hope. But what if there could be something that could not only slow it down, but reverse the effects of neurodegenerative diseases? Well, I am so excited because today, as you know, Dr. Lee Cowden, who's been a regular in the classroom for such a long time, he is back because not only did he help with the M3 Detox Experience back in 2023, gosh, I can't believe it's been that long, but the M3 Detox Experience is for molds, detoxing mold, microbes, and metals. And so today he's back because you would think he's be retired and just enjoying life, but he is doing more. He's diving deeper, and he is going to share groundbreaking insights into the integrative medicine and some of the changes and what they've discovered about specifically ALS. And I'm really excited that he's going to teach us how we can reverse these neurodegenerative diseases. I keep saying neurological because it is connected, but neurodegenerative diseases. And so today, you're going to need to get some paper and pencil because we are going to learn together.
And when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here waiting for you.
Hi, my name is Lily McDermott, and I am a certified life coach, a certified holistic cancer coach, and the host of the Lillian McDermott radio show Classroom. If this is the first time in the classroom, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide natural ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Well, it's a dream come true to get Dr. Lee Cowden back into the classroom. You would think that as a person who's retired, he would have plenty of time to just enjoy life, but instead, he is dedicating the second part of his life into discovering how ALS can be reversed and what are the triggers, what's going on. And I'm just excited to hear from him. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am so grateful that Dr. Lee Cowden is back to do just that. Welcome, Dr. Cowden, to the classroom.
Yeah, thank you for having me on again today.
Well, I tell you what, you could be anywhere today. You could be enjoying the sun. You could be doing anything you want to do, but you are still at it. For those of you who don't know a background, Dr. Lee Cowden, if any functional doctor that you know may have been taught and most likely have been taught worldwide by Dr. Lee Cowden. Dr. Lee Cowden is sought after, and he is just he's a cardiologist, started as a cardiologist, but now is changing lives. And today we're going to be talking, and Dr. Lee, I am just excited that this topic of ALS, anyone that I know that has had the diagnosis, parents that have had the diagnosis, it is devastating because pretty much there's nothing that can be done. But when you're involved, there's a lot that we can learn that we didn't know. So thank you so much for being here. And I am excited by why did you dive into ALS specifically?
Well, ALS is the most challenging medical condition that I ever treated while I was in practice. I had probably 3 or 4 patients with ALS over the years, and only one of them was able to be reversed and got well. So, it's not an easy condition at all. But what we decided is that if we can reverse ALS, we should be able to reverse all the other neurodegenerative diseases, autism, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia, etc. And so that's our goal, is to identify, the causes of these diseases, and identify the best treatments for each of those causes. A long time ago that, if you don't identify the cause and treat the cause, you're probably not going to have success. And so that's what we're about right now.
That's wonderful. And have you noticed a similarity with ALS? Is there one size fits all? How could you describe ALS?
No, ALS is a very unique disease in that the typical ALS patient has about a dozen different causes of their condition, but it's a different dozen in each patient. So that's the challenge of trying to reverse the condition. What I've learned is that you absolutely have to use integrative medicine and energetic testing in order to figure out where you're supposed to go next, because otherwise it's too daunting. Statistically, you calculate the probability of being able to find the right answer if you have 12 different causes by multiplying 12 times 11 times 10 times 8 times, and blah, 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 all the way down. Okay. That's a lot of numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we've learned is that with muscle testing and with electrodermal screening, we can identify a lot of the causes and also even figure out what the best treatment would be for those causes, and then give that information to the patient or to their practitioner. And then once the patient has that information, then they can act upon it if they choose to. With the registry that we started in 2023, we collected data from 45 patients that chose to voluntarily put their information into an online database every month. And the ALS is usually scored in allopathic medicine by what's called the ALSFRS-R scoring system. That's the ALS Functional Rating Scale revised scoring system. And with that scoring system, there's 48 points. And when a person progresses from 48 points, which is perfect health, down to 0 points, usually they die. The typical length of life for ALS patients, according to the neurologist, is 3 years. So they go from 48 points down to 0 points in about 3 years. But in our 45 patients that did their data input every month for a full year, we found that instead of going downward by 1 point per month, as it was expected in the peer-reviewed literature, that 20% of our patients actually improved their status, their functional status, over that year. 20% remained completely stable during the entire year, and another 45% worsened considerably less than what was expected by the peer-reviewed literature. So that meant that 85% of our patients did better than what's predicted by neurologists and by the peer-reviewed literature. So we knew that we were onto something very important here. Now, with 45 patients, it's really hard to tell what's doing what. You just don't have enough numbers of patients to figure all that out. So very soon, within the next 30 days, probably we're going to be starting a 1,000-patient study on ALS on several continents. We're going to have about 300 patients from the US, about 100 to 200 patients from Brazil, 100 to 200 patients from India, 100 to 200 patients from Europe. And, we will see, once we've gotten 1 year's worth of data from 1,000 patients, we'll be able to see what is likely the most common causes, what are the best treatments for those most common causes, and we'll be able to make a bigger difference in ALS, nationwide and worldwide. 95% of all neurologists, when they initially see an ALS patient, they tell the patient, there's nothing that can be done about this condition. Go home and suffer, go home and die. You'll be dead within 3 years. And that's just wrong. We call that a nocebo.
Yeah.
We call that a nocebo effect.
Yeah.
A lot of people are familiar with the placebo effect, which is hearing something good and expecting something good and seeing something good because you expected something good. But most people are not familiar with the nocebo effect, which is expecting something bad and seeing something bad because you expected something bad. So the first thing we've learned that you have to do with all these ALS patients is get out of their head the nocebo words that were spoken over them by
Mm,
their neurologist.
mm,
They see the neurologist as a god up on a pedestal, but that person just puts their pants on one leg at a time like I do, and they don't know when that person's going to die, but they tell the patient when they're going to die, and the patient believes it, and they die when the neurologist says they're going to die.
mm.
Okay,
I,
you
I
program
can't
them.
I can't imagine as a doctor, having to say that to someone every time with no benefit, with no improvement, with no, I mean, that's got to be devastating even for the doctor. I mean, like why do I even do what I do? Because I can't even help them,
Yeah,
So
when
I'm
I was
so
in
grateful that you are doing something about it.
yeah when I was in medical school, the chief of neurology at the medical school gave us a lecture. And he said, there's a few hundred conditions in neurology that we diagnose and try to treat, but there's four that we have success with. Four out of several hundred. Okay. So I thought I could never go into neurology.
No.
Um, but I've ended up in neurology, even though I didn't, uh, really want to start there. But all the years that I've spent in intensive care unit medicine, cardiology, integrative medicine have all prepared me for this moment. So
And how
we're
wonderful that is. How wonderful that is. Now, I remember back in 2023, you attended or were part of, I think that there was a circumstance that you became a part of. I think somebody got married in your family, but you were a part of the Hope for ALS, I think is the name of the conference that they did many, many years ago. And I remember you coming back or from that, so excited to see some of the benefits that have come out of this work and the people that you guys have been following. So it fills me with joy to have a follow-up conversation with you on this topic. You mentioned earlier that there are about 12 different reasons why people have ALS, but are they everybody have the same 12 or is it different? Are there more than 12, but 12 is usually the number of things that you need to focus on in the individual?
No, there are probably several dozen different causes of ALS, but
Okay.
the average ALS patient I've found so far has about 12, and but it's a different 12 for each patient. So that's the challenge in trying to get somebody well. You have to figure out what that patient has, what 12 contributors that patient has, and then address those 12.
Yes. And do those 12 that are usually in each individual person, are there any commonalities across the board? Maybe three or four or five of them that, yep, we at least can go down this route because, like, for example, emotional trauma. Do they all have emotional trauma? Is that one of the 12 that we could look at right away?
Yeah, absolutely. Emotions strongly contribute to ALS, but it's not exactly the same emotional conflict in each patient. And so
Correct.
that's the trick, is to figure out what the emotional conflict is for that patient and resolve that through recall healing, emotion code, evox therapy, other things that we can use to
Mhm,
to resolve that quickly.
mhm.
Uh, you know, I'm a believer in people using a psychologist to help them deal with day-to-day stuff. But the psychologists typically don't have the training to know how to quickly resolve these deep buried subconscious emotions. And unless you resolve them quickly, the patient dies before you finally get it
Yeah,
fixed.
yeah. Like your house is on fire kind of quickly. It's
Yeah, yeah.
that's how quickly we need to respond to that. And 95% of the people or disease is 95% is possibly emotional. 5% might be elements or physical DNA or whatever it is, but we spend 95% focused on the 5% and neglect the emotion. We act like it doesn't matter, and it's a very strong part of health. And what I've seen as a coach, that it seems like, if I work with someone emotionally first, it's amazing how other things fall into place. People want to do better for themselves too. So, what are some of the other things in that 12 that we could look at in one person that might be in common with the other ALS patients?
Well, most people have a poor diet. They eat the standard American degenerative diet, the SAD diet, and because they're not getting the nutrients in the diet that are needed to support their tissues, their organs, their cells, then they can't repair or heal. Also, the standard American degenerative diet is very high in toxins, toxin load. And so if you're putting too many toxins in and not taking enough toxins out, the toxin builds up and finally burdens the patient to the point where they can't continue putting one foot in front of the other. This we found, though, it's very, very interesting that some patients that have ALS do better with a carnivore diet, nothing but meat, and other patients do better with a vegan diet, okay, nothing but vegetables. That's the trick, is to figure out which patient is which. Okay.
Is that when you do the profile, the eating type profile?
Yeah, we can do the profile developed by William Donald Kelly back in the 60s in Dallas area. And then, his student, Nicholas Gonzalez in New York, and then their students, William Wolcott, who worked closely with Kelly, a little bit with Gonzalez, and wrote a book called Metabolic Typing Diet. So with a metabolic typing diet, you can get a clue about which end of the scale they're going to be on, but that's just a starting point.
Interesting. That would be one end or the other end. It's like all or nothing.
No, some patients, do okay just with an in-between diet.
Okay.
We find that all patients with ALS, I've found so far that all patients with ALS that consume too much sugar do worse.
Okay.
So
they have that across the board. Everybody that has ALS do really bad with sugar.
Of the ones I've seen, but I've only seen a dozen or so patients. My focus has been trying to teach other practitioners what I've learned, and not seeing what patients one-on-one. And so that the other thing I've found, this is very interesting. I guess it's maybe 15 patients now that I've had some kind of interaction with directly. But I found that 15 out of 15 were either sleeping on a geopathic field or sitting on a geopathic field hours per day, okay, or both. And a lot of, I don't know, I don't think I know a single allopathic doctor that even knows what a geopathic field is.
And I was going to ask you to explain that, because if a doctor doesn't know, most of the people that are going to be watching this, I know because we've talked about it before, but for someone who's new, why don't you explain what a geopathic field is?
Yeah, a geopathic field or geopathic line comes out of the earth above an underground water stream, metal ore vein, fault in the earth, or an underground influence called the Hartmann grid, the Curry grid, or the Binker grid. Now, if a person's bed is positioned over one of those lines that I just described, then Dr. von Pohl in Germany in 1929 was the first one to figure out that that's going to cause cancer if they sleep there long enough. Okay, and he worked with a mortician in this town, or a pathologist in the town in southern Germany, and he had 100% accuracy in figuring out whether the patients were going to die from cancer based on autopsy studies. Okay, and there's only 53 patients or 55 patients, but about 1980, Dr. Veronica Karstens in Germany had 700 patients in her practice with advanced cancer. And she had the building biologists go to their house and measure for geopathic lines under their bed. And if they were sleeping on a geopathic line, she had the building biologists move their bed off the geopathic line so that they were no longer sleeping on the geopathic line. And as a result of doing that, the vast majority of those 700 patients went into remission from cancer without doing anything else. Okay. Now, if the geopathic is under the pillow, then they're going to develop a neurological condition in their brain. Okay. If it goes under their spine, they're going to probably develop ALS of the lower extremities, but not their upper extremities. Okay. So, so there's lots of contribution to the ALS condition from geopathic. Uh, the other thing that I found is that the vast majority of patients with ALS live in a city or a town, and they're getting zapped with electro pollution 24 hours a day, most critically during the time that they're asleep. Now, when we're asleep, our brain is supposed to function at zero point 0.1 hertz to 3 hertz, zero point 0.1 cycles per second to 3 cycles per second. That's called delta wave. If your brain doesn't function at that low brainwave frequency while you're asleep, then you don't get healing of your physical body while you sleep. You don't go into parasympathetic dominance so that you can heal your body while you sleep, and you don't get rapid eye movement dream sleep. So you become crazy and develop a lot more psychological issues. So what I've learned is that patients need to be protected from the electropollution, especially while they sleep, if they want to get well. I learned about 25 years ago that electropollution and geopathic are synergistically harmful. So if you have a point score of 10 that you assign to the effect of the body from geopathic and a point score of 10 from the electromagnetic, it's not 10 plus 10 equals 20. It's 10 times 10 equals 100. It's about a five-fold multiplier. And so we know that if you live in the city, you can't get rid of all the electromagnetic pollution. It's a given if you're going to live in the city. That's why I live in the country. uh, but anyway, you need to get off the geopathic because it's got that five-fold multiplier effect.
Who do you
And
call for
so,
that? Who do you call for that to find out if you're in a geopathic line?
well, you can call a building biologist or biologist. They're also called. There's a building biology institute in Florida that has people scattered all over the United States that test homes for geopathic and electropollution. Uh, and so that's a starting place. Uh, but if there's not anybody close to you that does testing for geopathic and electropollution, then for the geopathic, you can try to find an old-time plumber, because old-time plumbers only had pick and shovel to dig up the pipes in your yard. And so they were very picky about where they dug, and they would use dowsing rods to figure out where the pipes were in the ground so they wouldn't have to dig up the whole yard. The younger plumbers have machines to dig up your whole yard, and they don't give a damn. They'll just dig up your whole yard. But the old time plumbers could find the water pipes in the ground. If you can find the water pipes in the ground, you can also find the Hartman grid, the Curry grid, the Binker grid, the underground water streams, the metal ore veins, and all that other stuff.
Yeah, wow, wow. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, we did a mold metals microbes cleanse. It's a M Cube Detox Experience, which you can find at whenyouneedafriend.com. Today, you can still find it there. If you're interested in doing the cleanse, it's a 12-week cleanse. And Dr. Lee Cowden was the one that led the way and taught us. And every single person that went through that experience with us did so much better. And I remember how important you talked about molds and you talked about mycotoxins and metals. And what about that when it comes to ALS? What can you share? Is that something that you found in common with the people that you've been looking at?
Yeah, almost every patient with ALS has at least one metal poisoning, one metal overload, you might want to call it. Uh, that sometimes that's mercury from the gradual release of mercury from the mercury fillings in their mouth. Some of them have lead because they live in an old house with leaded paint on the wall and it's outgassing into the room. Some people have aluminum overload because they used aluminum pots and pans, aluminum deodorants, and they go outside often while they're spraying aluminum chemtrails in the air. So all of those things are contributors, but a very, very common one that we see is gadolinium poisoning. And gadolinium is the contrast material that they use now for MRI scans. So oftentimes the patient that has suspected ALS will get an MRI, a standard MRI scan with gadolinium contrast material, and it makes the condition worse. okay? And sometimes even triggers the condition. So we need to stop using gadolinium. If a person uses a functional MRI scanner, they don't need the gadolinium contrast, and they can learn more from the functional MRI scan than they can learn from the standard MRI scan with gadolinium. So, people need to learn how to request the functional MRI scan. Not every city has a functional MRI scanner, but a lot of cities do.
And we have one close by, close enough. You and I had talked, I don't know if you remember this because I think you remember everything, but I had to have an MRI, and you were the one that told me about going to a functional clinic or hospital that has this kind of MRI. I found it, I talked to my doctor, and he refused me, he wouldn't give me a script to go see to do a functional MRI. What do you advise for someone? Because I was going to a neurosurgeon for something for my brain, and something that they found many years ago in an accident. It was an incidental finding, and they still want me to go back, and they still want me to test. And I even talked about gadolinium at the clinic, and they acted like it's no big deal. It'll leave your body within 6 hours or so.
That's BS. That's not true. That's a lie. We have patients that had gadolinium one time several years ago and still have a significant amount of gadolinium in their body today. So that's just not true.
Wow.
But the if I had a doctor that said I'm not going to order a functional MRI scan, I'd say, okay, been nice knowing you, and I'd
Yeah.
leave and I'd go find a neurologist that would order that. Okay.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't have to be a neurologist. You can get a functional MRI scan ordered by an internist, by a family practice doctor, by any number of other
Good
doctors.
tip, good tip. At the time, I didn't have the time and I had to go through with it. But I thought of you the whole entire time. I even fought it, and I tried to, push back, and because I was running out of time, I needed to do it at that point. But it won't happen again, that's for sure. And that had been the second time that I had done a gadolinium. And they they just brush it off. They say it's no big deal. But when you told me that you can get a functional MRI, this is the way it used to be. We used to do the contrast because I used to work at an imaging center, and we didn't have dye. It was rare that they would use a dye. And we had a functional MRI machine. I don't think they have it anymore. I have to check with them. But I think it's sad. There's a lot of things that I've learned along the way in my journey that seems borderline criminal for the medical industry when they push something that they know is not healthy and they allow it.
Yeah, a lot of people get a CT scan with contrast, and the contrast material is an iodinated contrast that sometimes causes kidney insufficiency or kidney failure.
Mhm.
And the allopathic medical community says, "Oh, well, it's just a side effect of getting the test." You know, they brush it off. Now, if they followed the principle of Jesus, do as you would have done to you, they would do that. They would say, okay, I wouldn't get the contrast, so I'm not going to make you get the contrast. We'll figure out another way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would hope that, they would know better, that they've done the research and done the studies, but it's sad to see that they continue to push the same old, because they
Yeah.
think they don't have options, but they do. And I will
Hmm.
stand firm next time, Dr. Cowden. I just
Yeah.
didn't have the time at that moment. And
We
and then they talk down to you like you don't really know what you're doing, and kind of like belittle you to the fact that you are questioning it. So,
yeah. If a doctor does that to you, you definitely need to leave quickly.
well, this was the imaging center. This was the imaging center. The doctor said that if the functional MRI would not reach the place that he wants to reach in my
That's
brain.
a lie. That's a lie.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Functional MRI scanner is far superior to a standard MRI
yeah.
with the
Well,
gadolinium.
it won't happen again, that's for sure. Now, one of the other things that we discovered in the M3 Detox experience is that these molds have life, and they eat and they poop and they do all those things. What about that? Do I call it a mycotoxin? Is that a
Yeah.
mycotoxin, the poop of the mold or the fungi. So share a little bit about that. Is that something that you found in common with the people with ALS?
Yeah, almost every ALS patient has a significant, mold or fungus exposure. It might be in the home that they're living in right now, or the workplace that they're working in right now, or it might have been in a place that they lived or worked, a few years ago. And if they have mold or fungus in their body or in their home, especially, they're not going to be able to get well, in my experience, until they identify that and fix that. Okay, so uh, approximately one half of all homes and all workplaces in the United States are mold contaminated. And in many cases, it's not recognized that it's mold contaminated. So unless you do the testing, you don't know. If a person starts out with a urine mycotoxin panel from Real-Time Laboratory or Mosaic Diagnostic Laboratory in Kansas, and they have elevated mycotoxins in their urine, then you know that they have mycotoxins in their body, and they're probably still producing mycotoxins in their gut or their paranasal sinuses from mold that they're getting exposed to continuously, or that they were exposed to for a protracted period of time in a previous place that they worked or lived. But so that's the first thing, is get the urine mycotoxin panel done, and if it's elevated, then see if you can test the home or the workplace for mold and fungus there. Now, the HERTSMI test, HERTSMI-2, HERTSMI-2 test will find the 5 most common and problematic molds that are found across the United States. And if that's HERTSMI test is positive, then you know that you got to do something about that home or that workplace, or you won't get well. And if the HERTSMI test is negative, then the same laboratory can expand that 5 microbe panel to an ERMI test, ERMI test, and test for dozens of different molds or fungi and speciate them and tell you which ones are present, how toxic they are, and all that kind of stuff. But mycotoxins that are the poop, as you call it, of the fungi are more toxic than all other toxins on the planet except for radioactive elements and mercury. Okay, so they're more toxic than all the pesticides, all the herbicides, all the other heavy metals, blah blah blah. And so you want to make sure that you don't have mycotoxins in your body. Mycotoxins are immune suppressive, cancer causing, liver toxic, neurodegenerative. So you don't want those in your body.
It's amazing, amazing. And we learned so much in the M3 Detox Experience. And for those of you who are interested in maybe going through it, Robert and I are going to be doing it again. I keep asking him to get it all organized, and so we're going to be doing it again. If you guys want to join the M3 Detox Experience, we have it. We recorded everything, all the files, and if I could wrap up Dr. Cowden's knowledge, I would put it in a book called an encyclopedia, because and it's like a whole, because there's still, I still haven't found something that Dr. Lee cannot answer. I mean, the research that you've done is phenomenal, and enviable too, that you know so much. And I wonder, with knowing so much, is it difficult for you, knowing so much, to be able to have a relaxing day outside and enjoying life? Is it difficult for you because you know of everything that's happening?
No, no, I learned a long time ago that you fix what you can fix, and you deal with what you can't fix.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. And
Yeah.
I remember that conversation where you taught me how to beat up a pillow with a, with a tennis racket and scream at the top of my lung and warn all my neighbors that they might be hearing some yelling. But this is it's good for the soul. So is there anything else that you can think of that is a crossover that might be in common with these, 24, 25, different reasons why somebody might have ALS?
Oh, it's more than 25 for sure.
Oh, more than
Uh,
25. Okay, okay.
yeah,
Okay,
it's several dozen. I don't know exactly how many yet. We'll know that probably after we finish our 1,000 patient study.
good. So
But
any others that you found in common in those top 12?
yeah, very often petroleum products are an issue.
Really?
Common in truck drivers and airplane pilots, and so so we know that that's a problem, and that we know that very often the patients that have ALS have had a concussive head injury at some point in their life, what we call a TBI, traumatic brain injury. We know that a large percentage of them have had a neck injury, what we call a whiplash injury usually, that predisposes to the ALS more in the lower extremities than the upper extremities. But there's lots and lots of other causes that we've identified, and what we don't know at this point is what percentage of the population of ALS have each one of those. But as I say, we'll know once we get to 1,000 patients, what that number is.
I know that if anybody can figure it out, it would be you and the team that has been put together. Because I know that you're working with a dozen other people to make this very hopeful for a future diagnosis of ALS. It's very sad. We don't hear how often do we hear about an ALS diagnosis? Is it rare or has it become more common?
It's becoming more common. About 20 years ago, there was 10,000 ALS patients in the United States. Now there's about 30,000.
Ooh.
So it's going up, and it went up a whole lot after the recent epidemic that we had here that
Okay.
required so many people to get injections.
Yeah.
Uh, very often people got the ALS symptoms soon after they got the injection. And so that's possibly another contributor. We don't have enough data yet to verify.
Dr. Cowden,
But
okay, I'm sorry. After you finish your sentence, what are some of those symptoms?
okay, yeah. So some patients start with incoordination of their hands or their feet. Stumbling when they didn't previously stumble, foot drop. Sometimes they can't grasp a jar or a doorknob the way they used to. They sometimes they notice that's called the limb onset type of ALS. And then there's the bulbar onset ALS. The bulbar onset ALS starts mostly in the head and neck. So in other words, difficulty with speech, get to the point where they can't speak, uh, difficulty with chewing, swallowing, breathing, etc. And so some patients have both, bulbar onset and limb onset at the same time. And so uh, it's a challenging thing. We had a patient with ALS who had gone down to 3 points out of 48. Okay, so he was really close to death. He was bedbound, unable to move any muscle in his body except his eyes, unable to speak, swallow, chew, unable to breathe on his own. He was on a mechanical ventilator. And so he said, well, I've been using the allopathic drugs and it doesn't seem to be working. I think I'm going to try integrative. So he and his wife pursued integrative very actively. And in about 2 years' time, he went up to 38 points out of 48 points, from 3 points up to 38 points, to where he could chew on his own, swallow on his own,
Wow.
got rid of his tracheostomy, used his mechanical ventilation very rarely, was able to walk on the beach, even jog on the beach, uh, all in about 2 years' time with integrative medicine.
Wow. And that was 35, you said? 30, then because it's a 48, it's the max, was what I understand you said.
48 is a perfect health. Yeah,
And
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 he went up
he
to
went from three to
38, I think is where he went to.
oh my, amazing. Now,
Yeah.
when you think of something like that, when you hear about something like that, which just uh, it, why do you think he was getting worse? Is it the medications that he wasn't receiving the help that he needed to reverse it? I remember the tub that you would talk about, the muddy tub, all the time and putting, toxins in and not taking them out. So was that very similar to what's happening with somebody that is just, just waiting to die?
Well, yeah, he had been told that there wasn't anything that could be done about his condition, so he had the nocebo effect, and that was definitely a negative thing for his possibility of recovery.
Mm.
But uh, he had the typical mindset that most Americans have. I should be able to just get a doctor to prescribe me one drug, and I'll take that one drug and I'll get well. Well, no, I've never seen that with ALS. That's I don't think that'll ever happen with ALS. It's a complex illness and requires a lot of different interventions all at the same time. You can't just do a little of this, a little of that, onesie twosie, I call it. You can't do that. And so he finally recognized that he needed to address the whole picture. Uh, he got married close to the time when he was almost incapacitated, and he married a lovely, beautiful, brilliant woman who just said, okay, we're gonna beat this, we're gonna fight this and beat this, and so the two of them together teamed up and got him well. Okay, but
Well, this reminds me, gosh, because we've talked about this before. It's been a while, and this reminds me that that when I was doing the research, there it says like nobody. Well, it didn't say that that everybody will die. There were like 10 or 12. I'm trying to remember now, we're going back a couple years, that there were 10 or 12 people or 15 people that had survived ALS. And I could not believe that they wouldn't study these 10 people and that they were just going through the same motion. Oh, that's a fluke. That's a fluke. Well, what made it a fluke? And I remember you and I having this conversation many years ago, and there is hope. There is hope.
yeah,
And how many of the people in that conference that for ALS, how many of them had survived ALS? We even talked to somebody in the classroom that had survived it like t over 10 years.
yeah. Well, I think the longest living ALS patient was Stephen Hawking. He lived 50 years with the
Wow.
condition.
Wow.
He's the one that developed the eye gaze technology so that he could look at a computer screen and look at a particular letter on the screen and blink his eyes, and it would put that letter into a Word document. And he wrote a whole book called A Brief History of Time
Mhm.
with that eye gaze device. Okay,
Wow.
so that's determination.
I would say that. But to me, these people that have survived ALS and are living a thriving life, those people should be looked at deeply, deeply.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
We had at the conference in 2022, we had, I think, 12 ALS people that had recovered from ALS up, that spoke at different times during the conference. And
Unbelievable.
so, anybody that came to that conference could actually shake their hands, talk to them, find out what they did. And we'll have another conference like that in the fall of this year.
Okay, well,
So,
you can come back
yeah,
and we can promote them. We can promote some of the people that are
yeah,
on there because
yeah.
it's something that needs to be discussed. And people need to, the more people know that this could be something that they can reverse as well, the better
Yeah.
off they will be. And I just want to switch gears really quick because I want to talk about some of the things that we're doing as well at the website, and we're going to continue talking to Dr. Lee Cowden in a little bit. But I just want to encourage you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com. This is where we take ownership for our life. Let's not accept what like some person who can't take care of you or fix you or whatever. Let's not accept that. Maybe you understand that you have a diagnosis, but don't believe the prognosis. Understand that your life is over when God says, not when a doctor says it is. And so I want to encourage you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com. This is where we take ownership for our life. And please subscribe and share, this video with your friends because, although I've known maybe 3 or 4 people in my lifetime that have had ALS, maybe you do too, and it's not too late for them. And so please share this video with everybody that you know, because you never know who knows someone that is going through this right now with a nocebo diagnosis that you'll never get over this. And so please not only subscribe, but like and follow me on all social media, support my sponsors the way that they're supporting the classroom. There's so many different things that you can look for, a shop now bag, whether it's makeup, hair and makeup, or pain management that is natural and maybe organic or whatever. Just check out my shop now bag. And you can also become an enrolled student in the classroom, whether it's $1 or $1,000 a month, a one-time donation. Every penny that we collect helps continue the broadcast and continue being able to bring what the quality doctors and leaders in our community that and bringing hope into the world when there's so much darkness. And so let's all be the light that we want to see in the world. And last but not least, I wanted to share that we have 2 events. We have Rewriting the Brain with Neurofeedback Therapy 2.0. It's going to be April 29th, 2025, and that is from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern time. If you can't make that time, it's a worldwide webinar. If you can't make that time, we are going to be recording it, and you can still purchase your seat, and we will send you the recording. You can send us your questions ahead of time as well. And then the next one is going to be in November. After that, we're going to do the I Am the Solution Natural Health Summit for cancer and autoimmune diseases. And so with that in mind, please mark your calendar for November 1st. And so today, and just know that it'll be in Florida. Who doesn't want to come to Florida in November? Everybody wants to come to Florida in November. And so I just want to encourage you to do something different and learn something new. And today we're learning from world-renowned expert, Dr. Lee Cowden, we're talking about ALS and there's hope for it. And so I wanted to go back by the way, it's drleecowden.com, drleecowden.com. But I want to go into details about what can somebody do if they want to be a part of your study? Is there anything, or have you handpicked everybody, or are you looking for volunteers now?
No, we have a healingals.org website where they can see the 45 patient study that we did, where they can see testimonials from dozens of patients that used to have ALS that don't have ALS anymore, where they can get some free education that may help them with their neurodegenerative condition. The registry is alsregistry.org. alsregistry.org is a private membership association. So anybody can participate in that, whether they participate in the bigger research project or not. But in order to participate in the 1,000 patient research study, they have to first be a member of the private membership association. Okay, so it's a double layer of protection for privacy and so on. Important. We thought it was important to have 2 layers, not just 1 layer. And what I feel confident about is that once we are successful in, turning around a large number, a large percentage of patients with ALS, that all the other neurodegenerative disease conditions will be very easy, whether that's Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or MS or ALS. It doesn't matter what the condition is. All of those will be, you can apply the same principles to deal with each one of those conditions. I had a patient years ago who came with advanced dementia to the office, and we determined by muscle testing that he had a TBI 30 years prior.
Mm.
Okay. So we did some work for 11 days in an integrative medicine clinic. And in 11 days, he had a 70% improvement in his dementia. Okay.
Wow.
So we can get, fast results in some cases with these chronic conditions that the allopathic doctors say there's no help or hope for.
Mm. Well, I know that we're getting a lot of negative, and not only that, if we decide that we want to do something natural or holistic or something different, it is amazing how many opinions are out there for people that fight for this allopathic treatment that is the only way to go. And what is the kind of mindset, what is the kind of person that can actually get through all of that into that hope and healing, especially if somebody has ALS?
Well, the first step is to recognize that everybody in this country has been brainwashed and programmed for at least 50 or 60 years. The media has done a great job at that. And when the U.S. Congress passed laws to make it legal for pharmaceutical companies to advertise on the TV about their drug, then the drug companies became the number one financial source for all of the TV in the country. And so now, if you want to put something on the TV about a natural therapy, it won't happen because the TV companies know that if they do that, they'll stop receiving advertising dollars from the pharmaceutical industry that they have come to depend on. So we have the worst medicine that money can buy, basically.
And you can't, one that walked away from radio many years ago, 2019, there's a conflict. Like if you have somebody that is a pharmaceutical industry, you can't have the opposite in somebody else's show. You had to comply, but and allow that commercial to play on your show. Because they sell the time, they sell whatever it is. And I just had to walk away from it because I didn't want people to think that I approved of my sponsor, and so little by little I went into internet and Facebook and YouTube, and then the pandemic happened, and then we started getting censored again. I don't think I've told you this, but I've had 85 videos removed in the last 2 years. And these are videos that were perfectly fine 2, 3, 4 years ago. But they just took it out. It's called censorship. So I was being censored in the radio, started doing my own thing then started getting censored here. And so I just hope and pray that we can continue to get this information out because it is life-changing. It's life-changing information. If somebody's listening today and they're thinking, okay, I'm doing some of these things. I'm in the standard American diet. I am, not getting enough sun. I'm not breathing enough air. I'm not getting enough. By the way, minerals um, like magnesium and vitamin D. Is that something they have in common as well?
Yeah, most of the patients with ALS have very low magnesium levels, and that's why they have so many muscle spasms and twitches. And as soon as they get their magnesium levels back up, then the muscle spasms and the twitches diminish markedly
Amazing.
or sometimes go away completely.
Amazing.
So, we know that 57% of the American public are deficient in magnesium by the U.S. Department of Agriculture
Mhm.
data. And we know also that if the U.S. government says that 57% are deficient, that it's probably closer to 87% because they always underestimate nutritional deficiencies by at least that amount.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
we need to be proactive about our health. Taking the supplemental nutrients that used to be in the food. In 1935, the U.S. Department of Agriculture did a study to find out whether there was enough vitamins and minerals in the foods that were grown on the U.S. soil at that time to maintain health. And it was just enough to maintain health at that time. In 1969, they repeated a portion of the study and found that there had been a 70% nutrient loss from the foods in that 34 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would say that there's been at least another 70% loss since 1969, probably more. So that means we're down to less than 9% of what we had in 1934. Okay.
Amazing. What can we do today, Dr. Lee? What kind of hope can you give us all today that will take us through until the next time you come to the classroom?
Yeah, well, our greatest hope is our walk with the creator of the universe. If you don't have a relationship with the creator of the universe, you need to figure out what that looks like and pursue that. We're in very dark times, and I do think that probably, even though things might be looking up a little bit politically, that we're probably going to be heading into darker spiritual times in the next few years than we've been in the past 3 years. So you need to develop that relationship with the creator of the universe and move forward.
Well, Dr. Lee, it's been too long since you've been in the classroom. We got to change that. Hopefully you can give us some time and be able to come back sooner as opposed to 2 years down the road. So thank you so much for the information. I'm excited. I look forward to, helping promote whatever the event, the ALS event that you're going to have in the fall. And I look forward to, helping out in any way that I can. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. You're a great asset to our community.
Well, thank you. Gosh, that's a very huge compliment. Thank you very much. And for those of you who are watching today, I hope this has been a bunch of hope, not hopium, but hope that is real for all of us. I will put the links of the websites. As a matter of fact, if you're a subscriber, all you have to do is click on the information on the blog. It'll take you straight to those those sites. But I think I'll also put it in the description below. And please remember, we'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lily McDermott and Dr. Lee Cowden wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Good job. Good job. Amazing, Dr. Lee.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.